In this video, we are going to see the difference between constructor and destructor, and I will show you a coding example of it, as well as we are going to see why we use constructor in a class in object-oriented programming PHP. We're going to see some examples here. So I currently have this class here just with the name of car, and the constructor basically runs when we instantiate a class. So you create a class and you want to use that class, you create an object, and when you create the object, a constructor runs. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to define a constructor. So I say public function, and they're going to be a constructor. And for now, I'm just going to say echo in this constructor so we can see it is doing something. So here I can say from, this is how you create a constructor function. Now you can have any kind of functionality inside it that you want to run when you create the object for any class. So now I'm going to run a function as well. So I'm going to say here public function show data. This is a function. This is a custom function, and I'm going to show you the difference for how exactly this function is going to fire. So from show, I want to at last I want to declare a destructor. For that, I would say public and public function underscore destruct, just like construct. This is destruct. All right, and here I say echo, and I want to say here from. What happens is when we are going to create an object of this class, these two functions, the constructor and destructor, are going to get fired. So let's see here what happens. So I'm going to say here new car, and I'm going to say $car is equal to this. Now if when I go to browser and refresh, we get from constructor and from destructor. So what happens is basically when we created the object, these files one by one, destructor fired later, constructor fired before. So if I want to use this function, so I simply say here $car, and I can call show data. Now what is going to happen, we will see that constructor will fire, then we will have this function fire, and then the destructor, because destructor is something that runs at last. So what we can do here, whenever you are working with code, you can have some code and setting some default value in constructor. So if you want to clean up your class or remove some variables, unset some data, you can do that in destructor. So here I'm going to go into browser again. I'm going to refresh this so you can see that from constructor it runs first, from show data runs second, and from destructor. Now the order doesn't matter. Now if you cut this and put it here, now if I go back there and refresh, it stays the same because it is the constructor and destructor that is firing at particular time. So we created an object here, this fired, and now the destructor fired once every single reference to this object is done. That here we are referencing to this particular function, so this worked, and after that this destructor. So for example, in real world application, for example, let's say we have a property, and I'm going to put here data that we are fetching from some database when we are loading constructor. So we can see here $this data and equal to some array. Now I want to put some values in array. Now for example, now you can see these are few values we have in this array currently. And now in real world application, you will see the data might have thousands of records, or you be loading 100 records at one moment. So that variable that is holding the data, it will be using some memory and using a lot of resources. So you might want to destroy that or unset that variable after usage. So for example, if I say on constructor we are setting this to this, and then we are using this, for example here I say var underscore dump, and here I am going to print this the data. So we are setting it inside constructor, and then we are using it inside show data, and once the show data runs we are using this particular data. So let's see, yeah, refresh the page. So we have the data here. Now the destructor is going to run afterwards here. So in the destructor I can say unset $this data. Alright, so we are unsetting it, and after that I'm going to print it again to see that this variable is destroyed. So here we put in there. Now if I go back to the browser and refresh, you will see that we have the from constructor show data, then we are using that data in that show data function or method. Now afterwards we have a warning that this data is now it's undefined because we just set this. So here it is getting undefined. Now if I make this comment, and afterwards if I check that, we are going to get the values again. So you can see that another array printed, and after at last we have the from destructor. So you get the idea that you can clean up your class in destructor. The destructor going to run at last, constructor will run the first. So in the real world application you will see the examples where we will be getting data, converting the formatting of data in constructor and assigning to some variables. That kind of scenarios we use constructor for, and destructor runs at last and used a lot less as compared to constructors. And hope you like this video. See you in the next video. Thank you for watching. And